What practical things, so this is where we get to our tips and tricks and all the amazing ideas you guys have. So, what practical things can teachers do to take care of themselves, their colleagues, their students?
I'm going to jump in on joy here, Whitney, because this is my big
Go
thing.
for it.
I think that we hear people talk a lot about their why, and I talk a lot about joy and finding your joy. And I really think that all schools, but especially Catholic schools, are places where there should be no shortage of joy. You should see it everywhere you look. And so, one of the tips that Whitney and I were talking about was just intentionally looking for joy. And if you don't see it, then acting on that and being a person, being an influencer, start that chain reaction to infuse joy in the workplace because days are shorter. We are tired. We are, maybe our patients are running thinner with each other just because we've all been together now for months and months.
Hmm.
And so being that sort of joy monitor is important. And then when we talked about, finding that person, finding that, and it doesn't have to just be one person, finding your little tribe within your school, make a pact with them that to find, to point out joy to them, to talk to them about things that are going well. Noticing and being in a place for people when something's not going well is important, and it's just invaluable. We know that there's just no, you can't put a price on that. But being the person who helps people when maybe they're just sliding towards the negative, see the joy, I think is so important. And it's much easier to do that for somebody else sometimes than it is to do that for yourself, right? So
I love that. I feel inspired just hearing you say that because I think it's so easy to get stuck pointing out, oh, this is, I got so many papers to grade. I got all this stuff to do. But then to point out the positives and the joy moments, it's that right there is refreshing, renewing kind of mindset. I love that. I think some other things we were talking about too, like as we always come back in January feeling like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to do this again. I'm ready to get started. I mean, it's a simple thing, but I don't know about y'all, but sometimes, at the end of a semester and things like that, my office space might be cluttered and kind of like a representation of how I was feeling at the end, where it was kind of chaos. And so, finding time and maybe even engaging your students and really refreshing, renewing the classroom environment, making it a space that feels exciting, motivating, and just maintaining that physical environment, I think, is a great practice at the beginning of the year. I think to kind of piggyback off of Julie and talk about, in addition to joy, gratitude is a great practice for us. When we talk about one of the things that my school did at one point was to try and boost, staff morale. Was we created like a gratitude practice where we kind of got assigned a buddy randomly, and then every week we would write a little note to that person, something we were grateful for. And we did that for like a semester, and it was really sweet to get some of these notes where, the busyness of the day, you might not get a chance to verbally express that to someone, but they were real cup fillers to get those notes. And I think when I would work with students, if they were stuck in a negative thought pattern or an anxious thought pattern, um, gratitude exercises were always a really powerful tool, because when we think about that moment of expressing and experiencing gratitude, um, at that moment, a negative emotion can't exist at the same time. And so it's a great thing to kind of find ourselves in a habit of gratitude, to help care for ourselves and for others.